Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to do a little review on the very well-known and I think famous Motorola Spectra mobile radio. This particular set in front of me on the workbench is a VHF model, the so-called VHF upper band, which goes to 146 to 174 megahertz, and it is, or I think mostly it was used by law enforcement agencies overseas in the United States, and I think in Canada it was used as well. This radio is a very special one. It's very unique and very rare. It's the so-called handheld control head version. This control head here has a designation A3, like Alpha 3. It's a very basic control head. It can do only a few stuff, like channel selecting up and down, turning the radio into scan mode, enabling the horn and lights alarm function, turning the radio on and off, and switching on the encrypted mode if there is an encryption module installed in the radio. You can set the volume here, and the monitor settings can be turned on and off here. On the side there is a PTT button, very large and robust, like the control head itself, and I think that's all. When it comes to program this radio, it can be very hard, because unless you have this so-called ignition cable, you will not be able to power it up, because in its basic configuration, let me show you, you have to put the power here on this socket, put this ignition cable here, and you also have to provide DC power to this lead. If you don't do that, the radio will not do anything, and it will act like it's dead, but it's probably not. And when you want to use this set as a base station radio, it can be also very hard, because you have to use a lots of cables. It's not enough to put the power here. You have to link it somehow here to the backside connector on the radio. So I made a little trick how to get rid of this ignition cable when you are using this radio as a base station configuration, or while you are using this radio as a mobile setup in a car or any kind of vehicle, but you don't want to use the ignition cable. The modification must be done on this front side panel, which goes to the radio front like this. Its official name is the interconnect board, what connects the control head using this connector and this one to the common board, what is located under this panel. So first what you have to do is to take the interconnect board, the front panel board, apart, and you'll have to install one little jumper onto the PCB. This little jumper is also known as a 0 ohm resistor. Let me show you. Here it is. Let me grab some pointing device, like this one will do. Okay, so I'll try to focus the camera on it. Okay, so here you can see this is a factory jumper. It's a 0 ohm resistor. You can see the double zeros, the double O's on it. This one is a 0 ohm resistor, a so-called jumper as well. And this one is not a factory one. As you can see, there is only one 0 number on it. I bought it at a local electronics shop a few streets away from here, and I installed it myself. What it does, it connects the battery power which goes to this pin, and it connects. Let me show you this way. So it connects the battery power that goes here to the ignition cable that goes there. It will short the two pins, and as soon as you turn the radio on, you give power to the radio, it will link the DC power to the ignition pin, and the radio thinks that you have provided power to the ignition pin as well, but it didn't. That's the trick. So you have to only install this jumper here. By default this place is empty, so the jumper is out. You won't find any parts here. It's like this one, it's empty, so by default there is nothing here. You have to buy a 0 ohm SMD resistor, you have to solder it here, and the radio will power up with only power applied to this main power connector. And now let's get back to the radio's history. Why is it so unique? If you do a little search on eBay, you'll find that this radio is very rare. You won't find it in any corner. It's not a common type. It was mostly used overseas by very special so-called TLAs. Three letter acronyms. The big agencies like FBI, DEA, and other important agencies. It was an undercover radio, so that's why the control head is so basic and was built in minimal style. It also has a very small display, only two LED displays and nothing more. You had to do the job undercover, and this radio helped a lot. This radio is also unique because when I changed the electrolytic capacitors back in 2016, I have decided to throw the electrolytic capacitors away and go with tantalum types. So if you can see, for example, in the RFPA section, the power amplifier section, here is 10 microfarads, 50 volts SMD tantalum capacitor. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to obtain this anywhere at the local electronics shops, so I had to order it using eBay. It wasn't expensive. It's really a cheap one, and I can tell that it's really reliable, because I didn't have any issues with it since 2016. It's been 2 years. And as you can see, this one, this one, this one, this and that, those are also tantalum capacitors. And on the common board, under the encryption panel, there is also several tantalum capacitors. And I can tell you that this radio is very rugged, robust, and extremely reliable. One of Motorola's best radios what was ever built for the overseas market. Unfortunately, here in my country, in Europe, these radios are rarely known. Almost no ham radio operators know it or using it. There are only a few users in my country that I'm aware of. So if you do this little modification on this radio, just remember, install that 0 ohm SMD resistor, or so-called jumper, that I just showed you. Here it is again. Just install this one, and you'll be able to power up the radio by using the main power connectors. Thank you for watching my video, and if you have some time, just take a look at the other ones. Have a nice day. Bye bye.